Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 14, where we are elaborating on Elm Elaborates. I'm here with Ryan Bono, as always, and today we're going to talk about a special episode, CLF, what it means, but luckily we are here with the father, the creator of CLF. Ryan, talk a little bit about CLF and how it came to light, how you birthed this, this thing.
Yes, it was an idea I had at 4:30 in the morning.
Love those ideas, 4:30 ideas.
Yeah, as I was thinking about a project that we have on the books now, we were talking about doing certain things in the project, and we subcontract pretty much all of our work.
Yes.
But there's some projects where it makes sense to kind of take the labor in-house, and we order the materials and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Now, we can do this on many different things. Painting,
Yep.
building a deck,
Yep.
building a second story to a building.
Yes.
Believe it or not, sometimes there's disadvantages.
Agreed.
Right? Pros and cons, right? As always
Okay.
with anything. So there I was, 4:30 in the morning, and I thought, well, it's hard to put an actual metric to it.
Okay.
It's hard to understand if we do this in-house versus if we subcontract it. There's an added headache factor. There's delivery. There's all these factors that we're
Yes.
going to now have to take on ourselves that we would have subcontracted and quite literally paid somebody else to do.
Correct.
So the CLF came into my head, the comprehension load factor.
I love it.
What is the comprehension load? How much is that going to weigh on us?
Yeah.
Factor,
Gotcha.
right? Comprehension is pretty straightforward. What it's going to take for the whole team that doesn't do this for a living
Yeah.
to comprehend this thing. Yes, we're in construction, so we'll know how to do it and pull it off, but it's not like we do it every day. It's not like we see these details every day. Like our subcontractor, this is all they do. So,
Yeah.
Subcontractor does framing. They don't do mechanical. They don't do other stuff. So they do just framing. So for us to do it, yes, it's possible, but it's going to be more of a hurdle. It's going to take longer for us to get momentum than it would for them. So that's when the CLF, the comprehension load factor, was born. And it's hard to put actual numbers to it, but you and I did it.
Yeah.
So we did actually end up doing a full breakdown on quite literally the building a second level. I don't remember exactly what the details were, but I remember you and I did a blind rating.
Correct.
So out of 1 out of 10, what would it be to pull this off? And we had different sections. We had material takeoff, right? Like 1 out of 10, if we were to subcontract it, how much work would that be? And it was like a 1 or a 2, right? We have to send them the plans and we have to make sure they kind of understand them. And if there's something missing, then the architect has to fix that. That's like a 1 or 2. We're not responsible for a bad takeoff.
Because that's the big thing. Like if we are doing a CLF on something and we purchase the materials and we in-house everything, then if something's missing or needed, we have to go back out and get it. But if a sub does it and they're like, hey, I was like, still got to get done by Friday.
Yes, exactly.
Hurry up.
And they have relationships with this metal suppliers because that's what they do. So they can call Bob, hey, Bob, send me, 18 sticks of, 6-inch C-joists, whatever. And then they get, you and I are like, all right, we got to find a Bob. Yeah. Like, let's just Google Bob's metal supplier.
Bob nearby?
Yeah,
Bob's
and then we
nearby.
search 18 different places, and then we try to get who can get it the fastest, right? So that's one of them, the material takeoff just in itself. So for them, it's like a 1 or a 2, right? We got to hand the plans off and make sure they're okay. Yeah. But for you and I to do a material takeoff, that takes a lot of time, understanding, and, asking very good questions to understand the screws, the attachment methods, all that kind of stuff. So that's like a 7 or an 8.
That is my favorite. And I will give a prime example of this. At our project locally here in town, we purchased the doors, right? And then I was like, okay, we purchased the doors. Yeah. And then we had the sub come out who was going to install the doors. But guess what? No screws, no shims. Yep. They're like, so I was like, dang. So that's another thing that I was like, dang, we missed that.
Yes.
It was a small little CLF, but still, luckily it's all local. But
yes,
it's just one of those things that, like, if you miss it, then you got to go back out and get it. It's just a headache.
And door hardware. Who installed the door hardware?
Door hardware.
Yeah, and what happens when it's not latching right? Whose fault is it?
Who's coming back to fix that?
Exactly. Who's coming back to fix it?
Well,
is it a problem with the hardware or is it a problem with the door jam? It's hard because nobody's really owning the full thing.
Correct,
where the subcontractor, it's like they own this. So that's why for us, the CLF factor is so low. We don't really have to comprehend all the ins and outs of that.
Correct.
thing. So, yeah, I think we had, material takeoff, material purchasing, delivery of said material.
Correct. That's another big one.
That is.
Delivery.
I
Because
almost
now
skipped
we
right
have,
over it.
now we have to coordinate, right? So now we're, okay, let's say Elm takes this project on or takes on the CLF, and now we have to coordinate when that material is going to end up on site.
Yes.
Right? Do we have a forklift available?
Exactly.
And then what are we going to do with that material? Are we even ready for it?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't know.
Where are we going to store it?
Where are we going to store it? Where are we going to,
The plywood called resin deck alone was apparently 5 truckloads worth.
Oh my God.
We have to coordinate 5 deliveries and then also send a crew there to offload this with a forklift, like you were talking about, put it somewhere, and then what are those guys going to do?
Then what if it rains? Who's wrapping it?
Yeah, who's wrapping it up? That happens all the time.
Who's replacing it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff was like $80 a sheet.
So much.
So, yeah, can't let it get wet. So, yeah.
What else do we have?
Material takeoff, ordering, delivery. Then we have a big one, labor.
Yes.
Who's going to install it? So we had 2 or 3 crews that we knew that could install it. But then it's like you kind of get what you pay for. And it's like, they have their own comprehension load factor. Like if they do this for a living, like, yes, we can go direct and do the labor kind of stuff. But, if we don't have a good relationship with them and they're about to run out of, studs or screws or whatever, and they just run to the end and they're like, hey, we have no screws left. It's like, well, the job site runs to a halt.
Yeah.
And so if you're dealing with this labor crew all the time, that, hey, these guys don't pay attention. They might run out of screws. Let me check in with their guys. And there's all that kind of stuff. Yes, we can absolutely coordinate a labor crew, but that is maybe not where our time is best spent. So we did another comprehension load factor on that, where it's like, for us, I don't remember exactly what our rating was, but I feel like it was a 7.5, 8 to do our own labor crew.
Correct.
Whereas if we were to subcontract it out, we still have to tell them where to start, how far to go, all that kind of stuff to coordinate with the electrical sub and fire sprinkler and all that kind of stuff. But maybe it's a 2 or 3 out of 10. Yeah. Whereas doing it ourselves is 7.5, 8.
Yeah, because if we get our own labor, right, we then have to hover a little bit more. Like we have to take our time off of other aspects of the job, like either looking at the fire suppression system or helping the electrician out or mechanical system, any of that. We have to take away from that so we could focus on this one trade that may have a lot of questions now, especially at the beginning, right? You're answering all these questions for them and ensuring that they're doing it right. Because once again, if this is structural, it's going to get inspected down the road by a structural engineer or by a third party. But we need to make sure this is going correctly. Yes. But if you sub it out, it's more of like, move that wall a little bit more to the right. Yeah. It's a little bit easier. Yes. It's like, hey, we're going to move that wall a little bit to the right. All right, I'll see you guys on Tuesday. And then you come back and wall's moved. Yeah. You're like, sweet. But if you're subbing your own labor out, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to be here all 4 days until you move this wall.
Yes.
That's a nightmare.
Here's another thing that I don't think we even accounted for. Oh, gosh,
are we about to edit the CLF sheet?
Yeah, I think so. Accounting. Money.
Oh, our accounting.
Okay, so let's say we pay Pro Steel to do this, or we pay Steel Blue, or we pay whoever to do this, right? Janus, whoever. We are paying them 5 or 8 times, right? A deposit when they get to 20%, when they get to 40%, 60%, then we hold the last one for the warranty, and then we pay that, right? Yeah. So maybe 5 or 6 transfers. If we're buying resin deck, then metal studs, then screws, and then signing up labor, and then, all that kind of stuff, and we have to put an order in for 100 more studs. So think about how many transactions that's going to be. I mean, the transactions are probably 5 to 8 times more.
I can't believe we didn't catch that sooner because that's exactly what I dealt with over at the local project. Yeah. It's just like you think you have everything, and then it's just because you're like trying to project, right, how much this is going to cost. You're like, it should cost $10,000 or whatnot. Right. But then if you miss stuff, then now that 10,000 becomes 11 and 12 and 13. Before you get to then, you're like, hey, I just doubled. Doubled everything. What happened? It's like, well, we missed a lot. Yeah. The CLF, we didn't catch this, or, this was the best practice or whatever it may be. But yeah, that's, and then, you know what? Also involves
What's that?
returns.
Yes, I was going to add on to
Oh gosh.
why are returns the most difficult thing in this world?
You know, when it's your own personal money, it's easy.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
like return all day.
Yeah.
But when it's like, when I see return come across, I'm like, ugh,
Well, they're so hard to categorize, especially, it's just,
yeah,
it's
a nightmare.
getting paid as a general contractor is actually oddly annoying, especially when it's in the form of a return, and especially when it's from Home Depot.
Oh yeah, especially.
Oh my goodness. Their
Gosh.
invoices are just not very good.
No, not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a good one.
We're really
financing.
talking ourselves out of this.
Yeah. But you brought up a good one when you were talking about that, and I believe another one that we had on there was warranty, right?
Yes.
So now who's going to warrant this? You know?
Yes.
It's like, yeah, we typically do like kind of like a building warranty for a year. You know? But we normally, like if we hold the warranty, we obviously have the sub, right? It's like if the HVAC goes bad, we call the sub like, hey,
Yes.
and they come out and they warrant their stuff. But
Right,
if,
like if
we build something, it's like, who do we call?
Yeah, it's like if we installed all this plywood or resin deck on all these studs and it's squeaking and they're peeling up and all that kind of stuff, it's like, you know, it's like if it was subcontracted out, it's like, hey, you need to fix this because, you know, we didn't buy this kind of product. But if we did it, it's like, oh.
I'm dealing with that right now on one of our projects.
You're dealing with this a lot, man.
So, little aspects here and there, like LVP, right? So it's like LVP's coming up, which is a simple one, right? It's like a simple CLF, easy load. Like, okay, just buy some flooring and have someone put it down, right? But we don't do flooring all the time. So someone could have been like, you know, that's probably not the best flooring to use.
Yeah.
This is not the
In a
thing.
high traffic area,
Yeah, especially in a high traffic area where you're lifting, you know, hundreds of pounds, rolling over it each and every day. They're like, probably you should go with something else.
Yes.
And so then we learn, hey, live and learn, but now I got to get someone out there to remove it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Yes.
So really, CLF is like a DIY if you're a homeowner. That's all it is. You know, is that how hard is this going to be for me to personally take on, for Elm to personally take on?
Yes.
You know, finding the material, then finding the sub, then getting it installed, supervision on that, and then warranting the information. Like, oh my gosh, that is. And so we did this for one of our projects, and really the idea, right? Because it is hard to put a dollar value.
Yes.
You know, so what your brilliant brainchild is like trying to comprehend to non-construction people or anyone else, you know, is like, if we take this on, you know, what is the dollar value associated with either missing or hitting this mark, you know?
Yes.
Like how much money are we truly going to save, and how, or what's the potential of, you know, saving money here? That's truly what this is about.
Yeah. I mean, when we break it down this way, right, we get this comprehension load factor. It's like, okay, for us to do this, it's going to be, you know, our comprehension load factor will be a 7.5, an 8 out of 10 overall. I think that's what we came up with.
Yeah.
It was almost an 8. If we were to sub it out, it was probably like a 2, right? Just throwing those numbers out there. Okay, so it's going to be substantially harder to pull this off ourselves, right? It's going to take our time and attention, and every hour that we work is $1 spent, right? So we have to kind of weigh that option, and then it's like, okay, so that's 8 out of 10, 2 out of 10. Now let's take a look at the actual dollars, right? Because we still have to pay to get the material. We still have to pay to get the labor. We still have to pay to get the screws, all that kind of stuff. So then we took a look at the dollar value, and it was like on $1 million scope of work, we were going to save roughly 20, 30 grand.
Yeah.
So for it to be that much harder,
Yep.
and it would probably slow us down in our actual schedule, that's when we miss.
I was thinking about the exact same time. I was like, schedule.
Yeah, I knew there was one more. Schedule.
Yeah.
Right? The comprehension load factor of the schedule and the actual ability to pull that schedule off.
That's huge.
We don't have the resources to add labor to the crews and all that kind of stuff. I'm kind of going back, but
I understand.
But essentially, what it came down to is like, we don't think that it's worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. If we were going to save 20 or 30 grand, it's going to take us longer. It's going to be harder on Cameron. Cameron can't work on other projects and start scouting other things because he's so worried about these studs, and our site supers are busy trying to track these guys down and learn how to lean up walls and all that kind of stuff. It's like, to save 20 or 30 grand on $1 million scope of work is a very low percentage of savings versus a very high leveraged comprehension load factor. So that, I think when we put it in those kinds of terms, I think we were able to get the whole team on board with like, hey, I don't think that this is probably the best path forward. I don't know if we've totally sold them yet.
Yeah,
But
I don't know either.
I think putting it in a way that we did kind of help them understand like what it is to kind of do this ourselves.
Correct. You know, and I was just thinking, so really, I'm not sure if we're going to use this or not, but imagine this, right? Imagine this.
Your analogies.
Yeah, my analogies. This is going to be a good one. You get a chicken, you got to kill the chicken, you got to pluck the chicken, you got to defeather it, and then you got to throw, you got to do all the seasoning and throw it on the rotisserie chicken, and then you got to eat it. Or you just go to Costco and you get a rotisserie chicken.
Yes.
That's what it came down to. It's like, should we just, like, how much am I saving? Because that's a lot of mess. That's a lot of headache. Or I can just go to Costco.
Right, and get a rotisserie chicken for $5.
Exactly.
So
it's like,
yeah, that's I like it. I like
yeah.
the way you explained it. So that makes sense.
I'm hungry.
Yes.
So now that we know what CLF is, what are some of the pros with the system or with your rating system?
Yeah, so some of the pros are control.
Yep.
So we definitely have more control. When we hear our subcontractors say, hey, they're going to show up on Tuesday, that's like playing a game of telephone, right?
Yeah.
But if we know the labor crew, and we see them all the time on our other job sites, we're saying, hey, you're showing up Tuesday, right? And they're like, yeah, I'll be there. It's a very high chance that they will be there on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Whereas when we play this game of telephone, it's like, hey, are they going to be there on Tuesday? I think so, but I think he had a dentist appointment, and I'm not sure. It's like it gets lost in translation sometimes. So I think one pro to kind of doing it ourselves, DIY, CLF, and keeping it in-house is we do have definitely more control. Then there was the cost savings that we were mentioning.
That's a big one.
I mean, some of these things do make more sense for us to do it ourselves, especially when we kind of do something in-house more often than not. Like paint is a big one that we get really good pricing on paint because we kind of do that a lot ourselves. So once you start to pick up momentum with some of these things, like it does kind of make more sense to bring it in-house.
Yeah.
So control.
Yep.
Savings.
Yep.
Can you think of another?
It's a good question. I'm glad you put me on the spot. I guess it just depends on how heavy the lift is, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Like if it's especially if we know the vendor, if it's something like framing, depending on the level of framing.
Yes.
Say that. If it's framing, we can say, hey, we need this done faster, or we can direct like Tuesday, like get this done by Tuesday. So, but that kind of lines on the control aspect of it. So.
Yeah, I think the only other one I had in mind is like reducing the CLF essentially by doing this. Like every time you do something in-house, like you start to learn it.
Yeah.
Like paint, like we know when we are going to paint something, especially if it's a large like project, like we bring our paint rep out there and then they advise us, and like you only learn that lesson by trying to paint something and then messing it up and the paint peeling off. And it's like, you know what? Every time I'm just going to get my paint rep out there. He's going to tell me the best kind of paint to use, how to prep it, and all that kind of stuff. So I think one benefit is, you can really learn a new skill and kind of add that to your tool belt.
Yeah, I would say grow our asset class.
Exactly.
Because local project once again, like we got a bid on a particular scope of work, and it was huge, and like I was like, whoa. And we in-housed it.
Yes.
Saved a lot.
Yes, like 50%.
Yes, saved 50% on this, and now this is something like, okay, can we go to specialize in this?
Yeah, it's really not that complicated.
It wasn't. Yeah, definitely not.
So that's the only other one I can think of. There's a lot of pros and cons, but I think ultimately it just comes down to, schedule, savings, and if it just overall makes sense. Sometimes it just does not make sense.
Sometimes it does not at all.
Yeah. When can we not do a CLF or a DIY?
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier, but anything that requires a licensed contractor to do it, like our licensed specific trade.
Yeah.
Right? So electrical, mechanical, plumbing usually.
Yes.
None of those we can do. Any type of civil work outside, connections like that, we can't really touch.
Yeah.
But any other things, we usually get a third party inspector on anyways. So.
Yeah.
Those are, I would say, the three major ones.
Yeah. There's the roof, which you can roof yourself, but you will not get a manufacturer's warranty.
That's it.
Because you have to go to their school training, you have to be
and all
approved vendor and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's possible you can roof yourself. Like usually the building departments will allow you to do that, but then you're missing out on the manufacturer warranty, which is really valuable anytime you go to sell a building or whatnot. They want to see that. So. Yeah. Again, that just kind of adds to the CLF. It's like we have a warranty category in there, and I think roofing is the number one thing where I don't really know if you want to take that risk on.
No.
Yeah.
Can you imagine getting that'd be a nightmare.
Yes.
And you're not going to get the pricing that all these other, I mean, some of these roofers are doing so many. I mean, they're doing hundreds and thousands of square foot a year. I mean, we're just like, hey, can I get like 80?
Yeah.
Like, what?
So those guys sometimes when their volume starts to drop, they'll do projects almost at cost. They'll do it for like a 1 or 2% profit, just so their volume, they keep their volume numbers, just so they keep getting those kinds of discounts year over year over year because they can.
I like it.
But we're never gonna order that much roof. Like, it's just not possible.
No. All right, I like it. So those are things you need to have a license for.
Yes. I think that wraps up CLF. I hope that made as much sense to you guys as it did for us. I think it's just another one of these little sayings and pieces to our giant puzzle that we keep adding, and I hope this one sticks because it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I love it. I was really happy when we first used it. It was great trying to figure out what numbers we were putting to things and how much it was going to cost and how much time it was going to take away. So it was a really good representation of like, okay, if we take this on, how much time are we going to add to, or how much stuff are we going to add to our own plate?
Yeah.
You know, what is the cost savings there? Is it worth it?
Right.
So it's like it. I like it. I like it.
Well, that was a great episode explaining the CLF. Thanks for joining me, Cameron Pleasant. Why is he laughing?
Because I'm always here. Who else is joining you?
I don't know.
I'm like 90% here.
Yeah, it is 90%. Yeah. All right. 3, 2.
I love that. We should have closed it that way.
Let's close it that way. Here, this is the end of the episode.
There's a lot of arms.
Thank you for joining. We do edit some stuff, but here, we'll keep this one in just for you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining.